Hello, everybody, and good morning. This is, I think, the 11th live stream for Reef Automation. Hello, all the people that are already in here. We got, let's see, Carl was here earlier, Reefing with O, Gary, John, Ravi, James, Christopher, welcome, Daniel, welcome. What's going on, everybody? Hope everyone's staying safe, staying healthy, staying inside. Um, Hopefully, none of you out there are having to work in the field with the virus. So today we are going to look at some people's Apex systems, and we are going to critique them. Maybe make some changes depending on if the person wants me to make some changes. We're going to go over kind of just basically labeling, looking at some ways to make their system a little bit easier to use, stuff like that. Today's giveaway is a $50 gift certificate to Bulk Reef Supply. Going to probably start doing some gift certificates over the next couple weeks. I do have a few things to give away in terms of physical goods, but with the way things are and with shipping, this is a little bit easier. So expect probably some gift cards here for the next couple weeks. What's going on, Brian? So the people I have planned today are going to be Ravi, Andy. I have a gentleman named Kevin. I haven't seen him in the stream yet. And John. Those are going to be the four systems I'm going to look at. I don't know if I'll be able to look at all of them. Really depends on what we talk about and if we really get into some of their issues. Really depends on that. What's going on, Andy and Dan? Welcome to the stream, Sleaze Stack. So I do encourage questions as usual in order to be a part of the giveaway. But yeah, we're just going to kind of go through some people's systems here. This information or idea was given to me by John, and I thought it was a great idea because I'm sure there are people's Neptunes or Apex systems that have some issues or they just want to do some more things that they're not sure how to do. So one of the systems right now has an alarm, so that'll be good to look at. We have a classic and we have 3 regular apexes. So we're going to go through the regular apexes first and we'll go through the classic last. I don't know whose that is. I'm taking a look at them right now. Let's see. So let me switch over my screen here and we'll get going. What's going on, Kevin? And Dan gonna run. How do you know when to change the biopellets? Are we changing from biopellets to something else, or just continuing using the biopellets? All right, so the first one we're going to go through is MGL Apex. I'm not sure whose that is, but we're going to go through it. We're going to take a look at some things and go through probably some adjustments to the what was the word I'm looking for? Arrangement, because that's important. Okay, so this is apparently Kevin's. Okay, so the first thing we're going to go through is just the labeling. So let's see how Kevin's labeling is. Oops, let me go back here. All right. So I assume that we have reactor flow right here, 0 and 17. That's my guess. So how I like to label things, and again, you can do it however you want, but how I like to label things is I like to label what they are, like if they're a flow meter, if they are a probe, if they are an outlet. I try to label them specifically um, what they are. So for instance, this one says reactor 1, reactor 2, and biopellet. My recommendation for you on this is I'm assuming this is flow just by the numbers. I'm not going to make any changes, but my recommendation here would be something like FL, bio, or something to know that this is a flow meter. Again, not a big thing to do, but just to know what this is. Because I can come up here and I see, okay, well, this must be flow. Tank, I'm not sure what this could be. Again, you use your system every day, so you know what this is. But the reason we're doing this today is to, God forbid someone else had to come to your house and do something for you. Or let's say you were showing off your system and people were wondering, well, what's this, what's that, what's this? Just a recommendation, like I said. Um, so let's see. Reefing with O, did I win or should I keep on? I don't know. Uh, let's see. Daniel, thank you very much. I appreciate all the support, everyone. All right, so that'd be my first recommendation. So we go to probes, for instance, which are right here. And again, I would go through this and kind of label things a little bit more, I would say, understanding. For you, like I said, you know what everything is, so it's not a big deal for you. But let's just say you decided to add an additional tank to your Apex, or let's say you decided to, I don't know, what you would do. But like I said, most of the time you have people come over and they don't know what this is, but that would be the only thing I would say. So another thing I would do is it looks like you have most of this kind of scattered here. I would put all your flow sensors maybe in a different section by themselves. I'd put your probes in a section by themselves. Um, so you kind of did it a little bit here. I don't know. I'm assuming these are flow also. Um, I think putting your heater next to your temperature is a good thing right there. Let's see what else we got here. You got a lot of stuff, buddy. This must be a quarantine tank, I'm assuming, right here. So I'd always put the tank somewhere, a different tank maybe over here somewhere, just so it's off to the side. Yeah, I wish you could do different pages too or tabs. I've recommended that. What's the best device to use for Apex monitor screen like iPad? iPad. I use an iPad mini. You can get a really cheap one on eBay. I would just use an iPad. Yeah, I mean, you can use a web browser, like Ravi just said. Um, okay. So that's my first thing. Looks like you got a bunch of different lights here. Wow. Yeah, it'd be nice if they had tabs or something that you could put this all in. Vortex, slow flow. Yeah, so I don't know what other people are looking at or seeing, but the one thing I would recommend, like I said, is kind of some organization of different things. You got your organization pretty good here. Um, for me, I would always put the alarms and warnings all the way over here by the dose up at the top for the first thing. Because when you open up your app on your phone, the first thing you see is going to be on this upper left-hand corner. So my recommendation would definitely to put your alarms and your warnings or any type of issues up here so you can automatically turn them off or get to them as quickly as possible. The same thing I would say for the feed cycle. So I would take your feed and I would put it up in the corner here with your alarms. I think that's really important. I put the most important things up in this upper left-hand corner. That's what I would do. So we'll go back to mine just to give you an idea of what I mean by that. So you'll see up in my left-hand corner, I have the most important things that I use on a continuous basis, which are my feed modes, which are my maintenance modes, and then of course I have my Trident, and then my reef important stuff right here. So I would highly recommend that you do that, only because those are the things that you're typically going to need to get to on a quick basis and not have to scroll through all this, especially on a phone. So that would be another recommendation I would have for you, is putting your feed cycles and your problem alarms, anything that's important, up in the upper left hand corner. That's what I would do. Let's see. So one thing that I do, which is kind of interesting, is I don't actually put any switches in my Fusion. Now there's a reason for this. So most of my switches are tied to an alarm, or they're tied to a virtual outlet, or they're tied to something where I'm going to get an alarm if one of these are triggered, and it's going to tell me what it is. Generally, if I need to go check on something that is a switch, such as these open or closed, I will go to the local and I will be in front of the fish tank. Now let me explain that a little more in detail. So if you go to my tank, you'll notice I have two specific open and closes here. And these are for my reservoirs. This lets me know when one of my reservoirs has been filled after the water had been depleted. So that's the only reservoir information or only switches I have in this entire thing. All of my switches are going to be tied to some form of an outlet or an email alert. Now, however, if I go to my local control, which again, like I said, would be sitting next to the tank, that's where I have all my switches, to tell me if something is wrong. I have all my switches here. So you see I have a leak reef, a leak garage, and a leak fish. And these are tied to my switches. So I made a virtual outlet just to combine them all into one outlet. So that way I know, hey, well, there's a leak in the reef. Well, which one is it? Well, then I can go to my local control, which again, generally I would only need to do if I was here at the house. And of course I can log into this remotely if I really needed to. But I just need to know there's a leak. I don't need to know exactly which one it is at the time. And again, that's depending on your system. But another recommendation I have for you to save some space is to get rid of these, and put them into some sort of a virtual outlet, or put them into some form of a, something into an alarm or something to that nature, unless you really need to know SR1WOF, whatever that is, specifically, you need to know when that closes, that specific one. So again, I would recommend any of your switch outlets to try to get rid of them on the Fusion to save some space. Just download the app and access your account. Okay. So let's see what else. Yeah, anything that's temperature, I would put temp. I'm assuming this is tank temp. So I would definitely write down temp here so you know, or someone else knows, this is temperature. So again, labeling is a big thing for me. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything else that's kind of standing out. So, I'm going to go through these pretty quick because we're already at about 15 minutes just on one. So I want to get through all these without missing some people that want me to look at theirs. So, Kevin, I encourage you to ask me some questions, or ask me how to do something that you're currently unable to do, or you're curious how to do, and we'll do it together here. So he has 2 times because of his time zone. Um, I don't know if he gave me access to his time. It doesn't look like he did. So all he's got to do is just reset the time, and then he won't have 2 times anymore. Okay, so power is very simple. Let's see what you got set up here. Depends what you have, because if you have an EB8 and not an EB823, then it's going to be a little different. So it looks like you have an EB823. You can, let's see what you got here. Let me take a look at what modules you have before I continue with my statement. Okay, you have an EB8 here, and you have an EB8 here, and you have an EB823. Okay, so you only can register the power that a specific outlet is pulling from an EB823. You cannot do that from an EB8. Okay, so what I mean by that is here's your amperage based on your EB8s. Okay, now if you want to get something from a specific outlet, let me show you how you do that. Now I don't know which outlets you have on your EB8, so I'm gonna, or EB823, so I'm gonna have to kind of search for it here, unfortunately. Okay, so there's your return pump. It's on 5 of outlet outlet EB823. Okay, so what you can do, where is it on your sheet here? Give me a moment. I'm trying to navigate a little bit here. Forgot where they put it. Give me a moment. I don't have an EB823, so you'll have to bear with me here. It's not in here. Is it right here? That's a variable out for your skimmer. Okay, maybe. Yeah, there's Kevin, I don't think you gave me the access to manipulate the tiles, so I can't get to the power management. But I'll show you the coding for it. So you got the power coding, so that's perfect. This will tell you if you lose power to one of those outlets, as long as they have an Aquabus cable. Yeah, 832, sorry. But it's if watts is greater than, depending on your pump, some pumps have a specific amount of wattage. Again, that's why I was trying to get to your wattage calculators. But if watts is greater than, let's say, 200, then on. And then I think you put, it's something, man, I haven't done this before. I think it's return pump watts is greater than 200, then on. I believe that is the coding to tell you if your wattage is too high, and then of course you can put it to 0. Oh, there we go. That should help. Where is it? They must have changed this, because I remember it being part of, oh, it's right here. Oh my goodness. There's your EB8. Oh my God. I do not know where it is, unfortunately. There used to be a little icon here that would let you go into the power management. If someone knows where it is, that would be great, because I don't know where it is on your system. Um, but anyway, like I said, we're gonna move on. But it's the coding for it is watts, and I can send you the coding if we need to. Okay, next one. Nemo's layer. Cool. We got a video too. Sweet. Okay. So what I like here, kind of like what I mentioned to Kevin. It might be in the input log, Kevin. Uh, it's been a while since I did. I don't have any EB 832s, so uh, I've done it before. I just don't remember how to do it. But anyway, like I said, unfortunately, we got to move on. We got some other people's we got to look at. Um, so what I really like about this one is the fact, like I mentioned, that he's got the maintenance up top and he's got his important information right here, all bundled together. I like that. Um, I like how he's got all his power management all in the middle here. This is really nice looking. And then he's got all his important outlets on the right here. So this is kind of what I was saying, Kevin. I think it's important for you to keep everything kind of managed a little bit differently, so it's just easier for you to get to things. Um, Again, you can do whatever you want, but my point is, you can see how something like this would be a little bit easier to manage and be easier to get to things in case you needed to get to things right around or real quickly. Um, so I'm assuming the sump high, low, and skim high, these are important information. Again, my important thing here is removing switches as much as possible. So sump high and low, I'd put maybe sump error, something to that to that idea. Looks like he's got a slideshow here. This isn't a camera. Um, There's no benefit to the double time. The one time shows, I think, the apex time, and one time shows um, the time at which it is here where I'm located. So what I mean by that is it is 1 o'clock where he is, however, it's 10 o'clock where I'm at. So it's finding the time locally because I'm logging in remotely. I would say adding a camera is very easy. You just have to have a specific camera that does HTTP viewing. Some cameras don't allow for that. Are there cameras that can push a live stream to that section? Um, I would assume you can push a live stream as long as you have the stream URL, which I have. I could give it to you. I don't think it will do RTMP though, so I think it only will do MJPEG or possibly RTSP on these cameras. All right, so let's see. I really like this. I don't see many issues. Again, I would label the feeder something without a 4.1 just for being OCD. But no, I don't see anything here. I assume this is John's. So, John, is there anything you want me to show you how to do? Anything on yours that, um, anything on here that you would like me to look at? I like this. Everything looks really good. Yeah, the Arlos I think are good cameras for this. So, let's see what else we got here. Looks like my salinity probe is acting funky. 35.5 is not correct. So I gotta look at my salinity probe. Right. So I think this is Nemo's. I think this is John's. I don't recall whose is whose, but I think this is John's. So yeah, I like everything here. I don't see anything worth discussing or changing, like I said, other than me being OCD with these numbers here, I would probably alter those. Um, but yeah, if there's nothing you want me to show you how to program, we'll move on. But I think this is great. This is really easy to understand. If I came to your house and needed to service it, I would know what pretty much all this stuff is. Um, I would recommend the dose add and the dose remove here. I would put it underneath your dose add and remove right here. I would put your wave left right underneath your flow right here. I would put your wave left front underneath your wave. I'd put that next to where it is, because that way, if you need to adjust it, it's right there. I always recommend putting your heater or chiller controller underneath the temperature or near the temperature. I actually can't move anything because you didn't give me full control, so I can't move any of your tiles. But that's a recommendation I would have. But other than that, I think you did a great job here. I like how your maintenance mode is up here. With maintenance mode, I would actually put that to auto. Since you have it always off, I would just put it to auto. But that's my recommendation on that. Let's see. Are the salinity probes in Apex prone to be in error? No. I was messing with my sump yesterday. I took out a bunch of garbage and I cleaned my sump. So I probably got a bunch of bubbles on my salinity probe right now. I just have to shake it off and get all the bubbles out of there. Yeah, because I mean, if you guys take a look at my salinity, you can see when I took all the water out of the sump by this big, huge line here. And then you can see generally what my salinity is. If this will load, I can show you. Is there any benefit to what, John? Sorry. So you can see my salinity is pretty much spot on, 34.9 to 35 almost all the time. You can see when I started to put water out of the sump and what happened here. So I'm sure I have some type of bubbles or something in there. So I'm going to have to take a look at it later. Just for clarity, to answer your question, John, I like everything to be in auto. That way, when I look at the system, I don't know how often you look at your Apex, but if I look at the system and I see, oh, something's off, it would worry me. But that's just me, like I said. There's no real benefit to it. I just think it's easier to know, hey, something's off. Okay. The good news is you have it in a good spot. You have it as your first thing. It's maintenance. You know what it is. But if you had maintenance all the way down here, like you have feeding right here off, I would be concerned if I was looking at mine and I was like, why is something off? Oh, it's my feeding. Oh, it's my maintenance. That's all. Can you use any other probes besides Neptune probes? You absolutely can. I would recommend double jointed. Pinpoint makes good probes. BRS makes their double jointed are pretty good. I've had a couple issues with them in the past. But yeah, you can use other people's probes, absolutely. Yeah, John, that's fine too. You can also tell her to put it to auto. I don't know if you know that. So you could say, I got my Amazon over there, but hey, Amazon, set my feed mode to auto. You actually can say that, and it will go to auto. Let's see. Yeah, so John, I can't move anything unless you've changed my access. I can't move anything. So that would be my recommendation for you there, okay? Say her name. All right, we're going to move to the next one. John, you have any questions or anything you want me to take a look at, change, shake your programming on while I got it here. But no, I think this looks great. Really do. I mean, I know this is your wave pump, left, right. I know this is your left rear, left front. This is your rate. I mean, I know exactly what this all is, and that's really important. Okay, next one. We're gonna do, like I said, we're gonna do the classic last. Okay, so we already have we already have an alert going on this guy. So I'm assuming this is Andy's. Um, so let's take a look at what his alert is first of all. Okay, so it looks like his ORP is his issue right now. ORP of 198. That's a little low, but that's not too bad. I don't know why I would turn off that alert. Okay. So, kind of the same thing I said to Kevin. I would recommend that you put your most important things up in the upper left-hand corner. So, for instance, I would put your alarm. I would put any of the important switches that you need to monitor. I'd put those up in the upper left-hand corner. Temp is a good area to put that. Again, I would take your probes and I'd put them all together. You see how you have your core pump here? I would put the core, this guy right here, underneath it, right next to it. Same thing with your dose. I would put the dosing pumps, the dose MR and the dosed MR DSW. I'd put those underneath your dosing here so you know which ones those are. I'd put the wave and I'd actually relabel the wave. You know, the 3-1 and the 4-1, I would relabel those as something a little more understanding, maybe left or right. I'd put those underneath your flow right here. Let me kind of give you an idea. I showed mine earlier, but let me show you kind of what I mean by that. So you'll see that my temp is right here, and my return is right here. It looks like I flipped these accidentally, but I'm going to change that right now while I got you guys. This is not how I would do it. So I would put the temp right here, and I'd put the return right here, because this is my pump, my flow for my return pump, and then my temperature is right here, and then there's my chiller and heater. There's my ORP, which is right above my ozone, and that's how I would do it. What level of ORP should you shoot for? That's a question that everybody asks. You know, I keep my ORP at 400. I use ozone though. So a general rule of thumb for ORP is a good number is between 250 and 350. Anything below that, you have some type of dissolved. Usually it's after feeding. You have some type of dissolved organics in the water. As Reef Dude said, don't worry about the number. It's more of a trend. Depends. If you're using ozone or using anything that is an ORP alter, you're going to want to monitor that a little bit closer. Generally, ORP will tell you if there's something wrong, tell you if there's something bad in the water. So I would definitely look at ORP. Oops, I clicked on the wrong one. So as for this one, I would change your ORP by generally carbon will help you with increased ORP. You know, I would say carbon. I don't know if you're running carbon, Andy. Yeah, no dosing. So if you're not dosing, I would still put things kind of together so you know where things are. Yes, ozone keeps my tank extremely clear. I'm going to mention this right off the bat. If you are not familiar with ozone, you don't know how to use ozone, you are not, I'm not going to say a noob, but if you are a reefer that's been at this for a year, do not get ozone. Ozone is something that you really need to understand how it works. I can do a video on ozone, but basically, stick with carbon if you're a new reefer. Don't go the ozone route unless you know what you're doing. You can really damage equipment, and you can really damage yourself and people in the house. So I use ozone on both of my tanks. I am very familiar with how to use it, and again, I'm more than welcome to teach you guys how to use ozone, but I don't recommend it unless you know, unless you know what you're doing. What's going on, Jessica? Let me add you to our list here. So for everybody that's been in the stream so far, um, you have to ask a question in order to be entered the uh, into the contest. So just want to remind that. I'm a reefer for 35 years. Thanks, I knew that. So, Gary, if you are a reefer for 35 years, then you should know ozone very, very well. But yes, ozone really does do what it's supposed to do. Let's put it that way. Yeah, Andy, that ORP will go up once you start using ozone, sir, or carbon. Sorry. So my recommendation for you now, Andy, is just turn off that alarm because your ORP is going to just continue to be low. The EL will handle 48 modules, I believe. I think ozone's better at clarifying than the UV. I think I do have a UV on my 300 fish only tank, and I have noticed that if I turn off ozone, it doesn't dirty up the water, but it definitely, you can see a little bit of a haze more than when I put the ozone in. I would never go back to not using ozone. It's just so much easier for me than to replace carbon every month. And I use light emitted ozone, so there's no air dryer, for instance. So all I gotta do is just swap out the bulb when it goes dead. All right, so let's get back to what we're doing. This is Andy's, I believe. Yeah, so Andy, because I'm a little bit OCD, I would definitely relabel some of this stuff. I don't like seeing wave 4-1. I don't know what that is. I would say wave left or right, or kind of like what John was doing. I think that's much easier to understand, frankly. I would definitely recommend putting certain items underneath certain items. Other than that, I know what most of this stuff is. You have some good labels here. Yeah. Do you have any questions or concerns or anything you want me to show you while I got your tank open? I don't use any carbon, and yes, the reason I use a light is so I don't have to use the dryer. That's correct. Because when I used to use the dryer, I used to have to redo that every week, and less maintenance better for me. I use Aquamax ozonizer, and I use Ultralife ozonizer. And due to it's interesting because I spoke to Reef Dudes about this, but I run ozone 24/7. Now I have units that are quite less in terms of how much power they put out, so I'm able to do that, and I run it through the ORP, so I haven't had any problems. I guess you could run it up higher, but for my 300, I wouldn't. I would need a gigantic ozone generator. How far into setup should I turn on my UV filter? You should turn on your UV filter the minute you head to fish tank. Let's see. What do you prefer? Dose. So the question, Andy, I let me rephrase that. Um, UV should be put on right away if you're going to use it, because you want you don't want the algae, you don't want the pests or anything that, depending on what you're doing. If you're doing algae removal or ick removal, for instance, there's a different conversation here. If you're doing algae removal and you're using UV for algae removal, you want that thing on right away. You want that the minute you put water in. That way, algae won't have time to grow on the surfaces because it's constantly being fed through the UV. Um, if you are doing it for ick or pest prevention, that's different. I wouldn't turn on your UV until you have animals in the tank or corals in the tank. I hope that makes sense. When you're using Microbacter, the recommendation is to turn off your UV for roughly an hour after you dose it. Generally, bacteria will attach to surfaces, so it won't go through the UV after it's attached to the surface. So you want to wait about an hour generally on that. Um, yeah, you got to get the recommended flow rate if you want to do it correctly with a flow meter. I mean, if you have a flow meter, yeah, or have it on its own pump. Uh, Christopher Hicks, someone was selling a Trident, if I recall. What do you prefer, Neptune, Dose, or Ecotech Versa? It's a good question, Rob. I actually use both of them. I like the Neptune specifically so I can program things around it. Um, I'll give you an example. So if I go to my Apex and I go to my dose, you will see that I have my alkalinity and calcium here. What's really nice is I can program my dose to shut off if my alkalinity gets above 8.6. I can also program it if my alkalinity is low using a sensor. If it's low in my container, it won't dose anymore. So I can't do that with Versa. So to answer your question, I think they're both wonderful units. But if you're using a Neptune and you want to have further programming ability, such as I have a Trident also, and I can do Trident controlled dosing, which has been absolutely phenomenal. It keeps my alkalinity so stable. It's insane how stable it keeps it based on the Trident results. So there's a lot of things I can do with the dose that I can't do with the Versa programming wise. So let me show you this. I mean, the amount of stability I get now is just insane. I've never had stability this stable using that. Um, yeah, I'm still having this weird spike in the middle of the night, so I'm gonna have to mess with this. But generally during the day, you can see 8.4 just about all day. Um, it's usually 8.4 to 8.5. Brian has a good point. You can't control currently the verses from off-site, so if you want to make an adjustment, you have to be home to do that. Um, but that would be my general review of the dose versus the Versa. Okay, let's see. Nope, it cannot be controlled remotely currently. See if anybody else had any questions. So Andy, let's take a look. If you were dosing Microbacter, do you have something in here to do that? So you would probably want a feed mode, and you'd probably want your skimmer and your UV to shut off. So I see you have UV light based off of a temperature here. Is this correct? Is that your UV? I don't think you need it to be based off of temperature here. So for your, I'm assuming this is your UV light. So what I would do here is, doesn't matter what the temp is. I would have your UV on all of the time. I'm not going to make any changes, but I just want you to see this. I would have your UV light on all the time, and I would set if feed B, let's say, then off. Now what this would mean is you would set up feed B to be when you're going to dose your microbacter. So that way it would shut off when you dose your microbacter. Yeah, Andy, I'm not going to change anything on anyone's system. I decided I'm just going to show you. But this is what I would do when you dose the microbacter. I would do the same thing with a skimmer. You don't want your skimmer to be on when you're dosing microbacter. So I would, get rid of all this, and I would just, you want your skimmer to fall back to on, and I would do the same thing. If feed, let's say B is, hey, feed B is your microbacter dosing. If feed B, then off. And then your skimmer and your UV light will shut off, and you will go into your timer, which is in here for feed B. And what's an hour? So an hour is 3,600 seconds. An hour, 60 minutes is 1 hour is 3,600 seconds, which I thought. So you'd have feed B as an hour. So that's what you would do. And then you'd have feed B set up. You hit feed B, you dose your microbacter, and then go away. And then after an hour, your skimmer and your UV will come back on. Just to give you an idea of how you would do that. In the process of updating my Apex to, can I use the current modules, black body? Do I need to get all? You can use all the same modules as the Classic on the 2016, all of them, every single one of them. The opposite is not true. You can't use a Trident on a Classic. You can't use a wave pump, I believe, on a Classic, and you can't use a core pump on a Classic, if I'm not mistaken. You can use everything else. Dose you can use on a Classic. Okay, we're going to move on to the next one. The next one is Ravi, I believe, and he's got a lot of stuff, if I recall. All right. Wow, you have a lot of vortex. Wow. Okay. So, Ravi, the first thing I would do, like I said to the other guys, is I would label your vortex specifically which ones they are. My assumption, yeah, the Core 20 is standalone. That's correct. So you still can use it. I don't know if you can control it, though. The Vortec 1 through 8, I don't know which pumps those are. You probably do. I would say Vortec maybe front left or right rear 2 or something like what's his face was doing. I don't remember who had the left, right, and ref. I think it was John. So John, like I said, I'm not sure on the core pumps actually if you can use those on a Classic, but thanks for letting me know. Yeah, again, Ravi, I would still label them differently here. That's just me because I'm OCD. But again, you do whatever you think is the right way to do it. So yeah, Ravi, just any questions you have while I'm going through it, just go ahead and just put them in the chat. Again, I would take switches off of the Fusion and I put the most important things up on the upper left-hand corner. Yeah, Brian has a good point. I would label your Apex. Anybody out there that's listening, I would label your Apex not to Apex. You do that in the network. You can't do that on a Classic here. You have to do that through. I don't know. Mine's labeled Reef Automation. I mean, you just label whatever you want. But yeah, most important things up top. let's see what else you got here. I'm assuming your ozone is ORP. I'm assuming this is ORP. And you can see Ravi's ORP is pretty good. It's right about the 650 range, which is kind of where you want it. I have flow switches in my ATO bucket, and I want RO pump to come on automatically when the bucket is empty and shut off when the bucket is full. Want RO pump to come on automatically when the bucket is empty and... Okay, so I'm assuming it's your ATO full here. Okay, and where is your ATO low? Is that QT low? I see your full, but I don't see your low. Do you have a low? Okay, so it's really easy then. I'm assuming this is your RO pump, right? I don't know what ATO full. Okay, this is really simple. Let me go back and look at mine just to confirm, because I sometimes don't remember. Fresh. So this is the Apex. Come on. Okay, so this is going to be your coding. If the low sensor is open, turn it on. If the high sensor is closed, turn it off. That's going to be your, I don't know which ones you have for high and low. And then you're going to want to do a defer. And you're going to want to do a defer on the on. So I would defer it for about 30 seconds. I would defer the off maybe 5 seconds. And the reason you want that you want to defer in there is because you're using a sensor, and you want that water level to be low for more than 30 seconds before it kicks on. And when it gets to the top sensor, you don't want it to just fluctuate on and off. Once it hits that top sensor, turn it off. Are you going to win today? Having a coffee in the hot tub watching on my phone. So Ravi, that's how you do it. You need a low and you need a high, and it's quite simple. So when it gets to the low, when the low sensor recognizes that there's no more water anymore, it's going to turn on. It's going to stay on all the way until it gets up to the high sensor, which is going to close, and then it's going to turn it off. So write this down. I don't know what your high and low sensor are, but that's how you would do it. It depends. It depends what Ravi's doing, Brian, because if he's doing something that he needs to know that something's been on for too long, then yes. But for me, I have float sensors in all of them. So since I have float sensors in all of them, I don't really, if it stays on, the float sensor is going to kill the water. So it really doesn't matter to me. But yeah, if you don't have a float sensor in there, you definitely need to know if it's been on for too long. Now, in his case, he would literally have to count how long it takes to get from the low sensor to the high sensor and have a when statement for that. Otherwise, the pump will shut off in the middle of filling. So I don't think a when sensor would be appropriate in this case. Now, if it was an ATO, yes, a when statement would be essential. Not float sensor. Did I say float sensors? Float switches. How do I set up an email alert that works? When I set the alerts, I keep getting notifications via in text, and I have to turn and I had to turn the notifications off. Well, so here's your alert, and you have nothing to turn it off. So that's your problem. So if rollers open on, you need to have a set off here. Otherwise, this is going to just keep staying on forever and ever and ever and ever. You need to have something that's going to turn it off. Any outlet you do in Apex needs to have an on and an off state if it requires both of those states. If something's always on, then you just put a set on. If something's always off, you put a set off. But if you have something that's going to go on and off, you need to have something that sets it off and sets it on. Can you extend the optical sensors? Yes, you can. There are 4 wires, so you'll have to extend 4 wires, but yes, you can. You could put in a very long when for another level of backup. Yeah, you could do that, but again, he'd have to time it. Let's set up an alert for ATO bucket. Okay, what do you want the alert to be? All right, Carl, buddy, it's good to see you I hope you got to watch some of it. I'll show you the maintenance outlet. That's easy. But let's get back to the last one. Let's set up an alert for ATO bucket. Explain what you want here, and I will show you how to do it. It's pretty simple. And then the maintenance is very simple. I think John has a maintenance button. I have a maintenance button. I actually have Harry's switch box, so I've programmed that switch to be my maintenance button. Okay, so if you wanted to notify you when the bucket is full, this is the big question on that. Do you want it to continue to alert you while the bucket is full until you shut something off, or do you want it to keep alerting you, and then when the bucket has lost some water, turn off that? Because there's 2 different ways to do this. Daniel, I guess I could. I mean, you just splice the wire. Are you familiar with splicing wire? So what you're going to want to do, Robbie, is you're going to want to add a virtual outlet, which I don't think it'll let me do here. Yeah, I don't have the authority to add virtual outlets. But you're going to add a virtual outlet, and that virtual outlet is going to be on and off. Okay, so you do want to do it that way. Okay, so that's quite simple then. You would say if ATO high is closed, then on. And then it will turn on your alert when the ATO or when that top sensor has closed. And again, you're going to want to set off here. So I hope that explains it. Maintenance mode. Maintenance is a virtual outlet. So what you're going to do is you're going to make a virtual outlet called maintenance, and you're going to go to whatever you want to turn off. So if you wanted your pumps to turn off during maintenance mode, let me see if I can find your pumps. Unfortunately, I am having trouble understanding some of these. Again, labeling is very important. I'm assuming it's this one. You're going to say if outlet, and this is going to be your virtual outlet, whatever you label it, equals on, then off. So what you're going to do is you're going to make a virtual outlet, you're going to call it maintenance or whatever, and then if that outlet is on, turn it off. Okay? You'll do this same command on a skimmer, on a pump, on whatever you want to shut off during maintenance mode. Okay? And then on your outlet, you'll have a virtual outlet, you'll turn it on, and when you turn it on, it'll do all this. When you turn it off, it'll go back to normal. And that's how you do maintenance button. And again, you can tie this to a physical button if you were to do a switch. So if switch 1 was closed, which would be a button or a something, then off, which would basically be the same thing as the maintenance mode. Okay, cool. All right. So we got through everybody's Apex today. I hope I shed some light on some people's stuff. Let me look at the contest. So a couple of you guys I see are in the contest here, but haven't asked a question. So let's see. I don't know if producer Reef asked a question, even though he won last week. Reefing with O, I don't know if you asked a question. Dan Montoya, I don't think you asked a question. Jessica J, I don't think you asked a question. Did you go over the classic? Yes, I went over Ravi's, which is a classic. Kevin Peterson, I don't have you on my list because I don't think you ever said the magic words. That's probably why I don't have you on my list. Looks like I don't think Jeffrey asked a question, unfortunately. Oh yeah, you did ask about the biopellets. That's right. So, did I answer the question? Biopellets, you just refill them, kind of like when they get low, you just refill them. I don't know if that was the question. I don't remember, unfortunately. Carl, any experience with repairing? I don't repair anything. I don't think I've ever. I've mentioned this a couple times in my streams. I don't work for Neptune. I don't repair any of them. I don't know how to repair any of them. I don't open any of their stuff. Christopher, you did not make the list. Did you say the magic words? I don't know if you asked a question either. I'm trying to keep up with everyone, but I'm not perfect. Okay, I'm gonna switch you guys over. Yeah, Reefing, you asked a number of questions, so don't worry about that. If you did, I apologize. I'm a little slow today. Okay. All right. Derek's like Bob the Builder. All right. All right, people. Let me show you. I'm going to type how to spell my name. I see this in the stream. I see this on the Facebook group. That's how you spell my name. Okay. I can't help it. How we spell it in the UK? Well, I don't know what to tell you. I know Derek's that are spelled Derek too. So if you're not on the list, you more than likely didn't ask a question, or you didn't say Reef Automation, or I'm just slow today and didn't see it. Yes, you get it wrong every time, Devin. That's correct. So I'm going to start spelling Devin's name like this. Everyone, start spelling Devin's name like this. Daniel, what did you ask, sir? And I will answer it. Sorry. Sometimes I don't get to everyone's question, unfortunately. right, let me update this list while I'm Andy. I know which one is you. I just kind of typed it in when we were talking. Yeah, just keep saying Devin's name wrong to get him back. Can you give me code to program my calcster through the Apex? Okay. Well, what are you using first of all to pump the calc? Let me ask you that question first. Carl, I could do a ReefBot update with you right now if you'd like. It's been offline for 2 days again, so it's doing great. And it decided to do a test without me telling it to do a test, so it's doing really well. Okay, West Philly. You have to ask a question to be entered into the contest. Producer Reef. I just need to know what you're doing to this calcser because I can tell you that I've used calc with stirs and you generally want to spin them for about 15 minutes every 2 hours. And depending on how you're dripping it, um, I always do it through the ATO. I find that to be the safest way to do it. Um, so the calcster, you would use an OSC command. I did a video on OSC, and you'd want it to every 2 hours turn on for 15 minutes. 15 might be a little much, depending on which unit you have. Maybe 5 minutes. So every 2 hours, have it spin for 5 minutes. I hope that answers your question. But yeah, we got a lot of people in the contest today. If you don't see your name on there, give me a shout out. And I know some people left, but I tried to put everybody on there. Carl said he left, so I took him off the list, but I'm going to put Carl back on there. Ravi, I'm not using calc any longer. I switched from a calcium reactor to dosing, and if you can believe it, my pH is great now. The calcium reactor was the definite depressing factor. I had a number of issues with my calcium reactor, unfortunately, which I mentioned in the last stream. But I switched over to dosing, and everything's been great. So I'm not using calc any longer. No, Carl, you're going to be in the draw. It's fine. I don't know if you'll be able to order from bulk reef supply, but you'll be in the draw. I tried multiple times to add a short video to my dashboard. What am I doing wrong? To add a short video. Do you mean in the camera section? Because you have to have an RTSP feed or an MJPEG feed in order for that to work. Yeah, I don't even know if I'm going to sell my calcium reactor yet. I haven't decided. I have it sitting in the garage. Maybe today or tomorrow I'm going to clean it. I haven't. I got a ton of reborn media, by the way, if anybody needs it, because I'm not going to need it anymore. And I know it's hard to find. Andy, that will change. Sometimes it takes a second. Also, if you have too many things labeled, there is a limit at which you can label. So, depending on how you labeled it, that's why I was saying switches and things that aren't as important, I would make sure that they're labeled to the default, so that way you're not using them. Ship to Devon, he needs. You don't need a calcium reactor. Why do you need a calcium reactor? Oh, you need reborn. Sorry. Yeah, I got tons of reborn. Seriously. I got like bags of it. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with the reborn yet. I've had people ask me for it. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. Let's see. Well, then I'm going to have maybe a contest for the reborn. So many people want it. I'm not giving out for free, I'll tell you that much. All right. I'm going to run this contest now. Is there any other questions? Everybody that's on here, I believe you have asked a question. If you have not, shame on you. Unfortunately, hopefully you stayed the whole stream and learned something new today. I'm a little tired, unfortunately, so I'm a little slow today. But hopefully we got to look at some people's systems and got to really see what people are doing out there. Hopefully the people that I showed got some advice and we'll change a few things. I think it'll be easier for you. Hope everyone's staying safe, and yeah, we'll go ahead and do this now. So again, I'm gonna give it a minute. Anybody that's on here or anybody that's in the stream that's not seeing their name, please say something right now. And we're almost at 300 subscribers on YouTube, which is awesome. So whoever becomes a 300 subscriber, I'll probably give them something, like I did last time with John. And we're almost at 500 subscribers on the Facebook group, which is fantastic. I'm amazed. We started this back in, I think, January. We started doing this, so I've been very happy with the success of the channel and with the Facebook group, and hopefully people are learning some stuff. And hopefully Macna doesn't get canceled. So I'll see everybody at Macna because I'm in Phoenix. All right, let's go. Everyone's been waiting, so we're going to go. And the winner today is Ron is the winner today. Look at that. He put a thumbs up and he won. Look at that. Everyone put a thumbs up and you have a chance to win. Nice, Ron. So, Ron, just PM me in Facebook. I know you're part of the Facebook group, so I will get that gift card over to you via email. Yeah, so congratulations to Ron. Like I said, for the next couple weeks, we're going to probably do gift cards. Today's a $50, maybe I'll do a $100, maybe I'll do a $200, who knows. I only do the bigger prizes when we have more people, so just remember that. So I'm trying to grow the channel as much as I can. So yeah, I hope everyone's staying safe out there. I hope everyone is enjoying the channel. Please get your friends, get your buddies, like the stream today if you liked it. The likes are helpful with YouTube, so hit the thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. I do these every Saturday morning. And like I said, I'm probably going to be giving gift cards away for the next couple weeks. And yeah, if you guys ever have any suggestions for topics, just PM me. Try to get people on. I like doing them by myself, but sometimes I like having people on depending on what we're talking about. But yeah, again, everyone stay safe. Have a good day. And thanks for watching. Appreciate it.